Tell me, did you spoil? We will. Hello, and welcome back to the channel. Today is episode number 11 of Geeks, Drop the Gauntlet. My name is, Affleck, and this is...
Stinky.
Alright, well in today's episode, we're going to be discussing our thoughts and opinions of the brand new Flash movie that just debuted this weekend. Now, again, as you can tell from the title below, this will have spoilers. So again, if you have not seen the movie, please do not watch this until after you've seen the movie, okay?
We do not want to take away the experience that we had, so we can't emphasize enough, do not watch this until you have watched the movie.
100%.
So yeah, you've been warned. A few notes before we dive in here. First, we watched this movie a few weeks ago at a pre-screening event. There may be some changes that have taken place since the final theatrical cut of the movie, and we have not seen that. We'll see it tomorrow. And secondly, we do not know Ezra Miller as a person. I didn't keep track too closely of what happened outside of the film and everything. We are not going to do a review based on Ezra Miller as a person. We're just reviewing the movie.
Yes.
So we'll keep all of that stuff out.
Yeah.
It's just his performance in the film.
That's a perfect way of putting it. So, without further ado, let's dive right into the details and get me out of this costume.
All right, so as we said just a second ago, we're going to be diving right in. So let's start with the overall story. Again, spoilers. So the overall story, with a really basic single sentence, I'm going to say, I enjoyed it.
Absolutely. I think one of the discussions we had after is that it is sciencey enough to go into the explanation of the multiverse and how it worked, but it wasn't so sciencey that it bogged itself down.
Yes.
It allowed us to have a suspension of disbelief for those things you're like, I don't know if it worked that way.
Yeah.
And I never had that moment where I was like, I don't think that works.
Right.
But I thought that they did a really good job in the explanation.
Yes, and it was, sometimes these multiversal movies, they're hard to follow, right? Mm-hmm. Like you said, and maybe not even time explanation, they're just hard to follow because they're jumping through multiple verses, multiple universes. And to me, the whole time watching it, I was with it. I knew what was going on. I wasn't questioning anything like, wait, but what? And then by that time, by me questioning it, now 3, 5, 10 minutes has passed by and I missed something. No, the whole thing was smooth to me. Yeah. I was able to follow it, and the explanation that they gave for time travel manipulation was, to me, I am no scientist. And the point is, they didn't make it, like you said, they didn't make it too scientific-y, and they didn't make it so dumbed down to where you're like, that's dumb, no way. It was that perfect middle ground, I thought. So overall, I really enjoyed that.
And something, like, they didn't lean into what Endgame did either, to where, like, I'll just use these as a quick example. So you have a timeline, and if you go back or do something, it changes and causes a divergent timeline. But they reason that you should be able to travel back to this point, undo what you did, and then erase that timeline. Flash is different. So Flash makes it to where you have a nexus like that. And so you can travel to a nexus, and that changes everything that happened before and after a nexus point.
The future and the past.
Yeah, there are some nexus points in time, and there are some nexus people. And Flash is a nexus person. So that explains why you see an entirely different Bruce Wayne with a kind of similar development.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, like, that's why Michael Keaton is Bruce Wayne in this timeline that he goes to, past and future, from that nexus point. So I thought that was a reasonably good explanation.
A good explanation, yeah. And I like that they touched on this movie, as we know, it's based loosely on Flashpoint.
Yes.
And Flashpoint is an amazing comic book storyline. And again, yes, loosely. It was very loosely based. But the things that they picked from it, I enjoyed.
Yeah.
I really liked, there was little nods, to, oh yeah, I remember when that similar thing happened in the comic books, like how Flash got his powers back. Very similar. Was it the exact same thing? No. But
the leg injury that slows Flash
the shot,
for a minute.
through his leg. They took the right amounts away from it, and the things that they needed to change or wanted to change, whatever, I thought they worked.
Yeah.
It worked.
And
so
just
overall,
to pick from that, like what they took, they left out like the Flash, Wonder Woman, or not Flash, the Aquaman, Wonder Woman part of the storyline, which adds a considerable amount to the Flashpoint storyline.
Yeah.
They did use the Superman being captured as soon as he landed on the planet, and then being highly emaciated, controlled by red sun energy, red sun radiation, and being basically tortured and poked and prodded and everything for decades before he's released. That Superman was very frail in Flashpoint. And what we see this time, she is not frail.
No, she's awesome.
Yeah, it doesn't take long for her to start getting things together.
And we'll dive into the characters in a second.
Yeah, and so overall, like, I think they did pull the correct things as far as the story goes for a Flashpoint style story.
Yeah, I agree. I liked it. So overall, the story was great. I from beginning to end. I mean, and again, watching the movie in the theater we did with the people that we did may have made it a little better. But the point is overall I enjoyed the story.
Yes.
So let's now dive into some specifics of the characters themselves. Let's start with the big elephant in the room, which is the main character, Mr. Barry Allen.
Yep.
Now, they're technically in this movie, if you've seen it, obviously, I hope you have, if you're watching this movie, there are technically he plays three versions of himself. He plays his, we'll call it the standard version, a younger version, and an older version, a very older version. And while the older version didn't get too much screen time, I'm going to be talking mainly about the younger and standard version, we'll call it. What a kick-ass performance.
Absolutely.
I was blown away because I'm with you. When he was first cast, I said, no, he doesn't fit the position of Flash. What switched me a little bit was the beginning was Justice League. I liked him in Justice League. The Zack Snyder version.
He did okay.
The Zack Snyder version. I thought it was great. I thought it was fine. I thought the scene where he saves Iris was cool.
Yeah.
Some people were like, oh, it's creepy. I just thought it was cool overall. The way they shot it.
It's the same Iris, by the way.
Yes,
the
which
Iris
is really cool.
in Justice League and the Iris that we see in The Flash is the same Iris, which I thought was good.
Yeah, that was awesome. They didn't recast her or anything. But yeah, so overall, I started to like him a bit in Zack Snyder's Justice League. I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. Yeah, and the scene where he runs so fast, he reverses the time at the end of Zack Snyder's Justice League, I thought that was sick. So what they did, in my opinion, is they took that one scene and that character building moment of Barry Allen, of Ezra Miller as Barry Allen, and they just expanded on that, the good part. And they just expanded that in this movie. His acting of being able to portray the standard version of himself, the younger version of himself, were two different characters. They were different.
Yeah, it was easy to distinguish them, even when they look exactly the same on screen.
Yes.
You knew who was who.
Yes, and it was awesome that, he played the younger version the way that it was supposed to be played. And that means he was annoying. That means he did dumb things that you're like, oh my God, shut up. But it was acknowledged.
Yeah.
He was like, why do you keep talking like that? Oh wait.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait, that's why people don't like me, type deal.
Ezra Miller that we see playing the Flash from the standard timeline is a little bit older, a little bit more experienced, and
still has quirks, but
yeah, he's an interesting individual, like the way he plays him.
Yeah.
But the Ezra Miller we see in the previous timeline is Ezra Miller as he was in what would have been like the Batman versus Superman.
Yeah.
Maybe
even earlier.
Yeah, basically when Superman first kind of surfaces timeline, and you see that immaturity, and
I believe they state he's 18.
Yeah,
or 19 in the movie.
He is immature. There are also some aspects that we'll touch on later that also kind of lend themselves to the Barry that we saw in Justice League.
Yeah.
Because they did a really good job of making it new.
Yes.
Making him a new character. And they just did... The older Barry was still even like the third one you were talking about.
We'll call him Dark.
The Dark Flash Barry is a Barry who is exhausted in his need to preserve what he knows.
Yes.
Working against the standard Barry and trying to fix something that can't be fixed.
Yes.
It's a nexus point again that can't be changed. And this Barry has spent 50 some odd years reliving the same day or few hours over and over and over and over again in an effort to try to change this. And he just, he's great. Like, even that Barry.
I was going to say, his portrayal of that was completely different than the other two.
Yeah.
Because he was older. It almost like his little, quirks were gone. Because this is 50 years, he's been trying for all this time.
Right.
It's gone. He was just menacing now.
Yeah.
And anyways, point is overall, amazing.
Yeah,
I thought he did
a great job.
It was a standout. And going into this movie, I thought that he would make or break the movie, literally.
He would. Oh, he would have.
Right, and he made it.
Yeah.
So I'm again, like we mentioned in the intro of this, don't know what he did outside of this movie. We're separating that from the character. He played an awesome role. He did a great job in this movie. Fantastic. Moving on, Michael Keaton. Let's bring him up. What an awesome way to see him. Because I'm going to be honest, his '89, his '92 movie were cool. They were cool. Loved Tim Burton's Gotham. Loved a bunch of stuff about that. That was cool. Are they my favorite Batman movies? No. But seeing him again on screen and getting the action that I wanted to see in the earlier movies, seeing that now and his older, wiser, portrayal was awesome. And I'm glad they brought Michael Keaton back. That was a great choice. And his interactions with Barry, the way that they shared the screen together, it was awesome. Both Barrys.
Yep.
It was awesome, and I thought they did a fantastic job.
They leaned into the nostalgia of Michael Keaton coming back into the role, and he delivered also. Like, he did a fantastic job.
Coolest action scenes he's been in.
Right, and some of the better Batman action scenes, to be honest. Like, we've talked about this before, that like Ben Affleck's warehouse fight scene,
number one,
probably the best scene, but Michael Keaton's fight scene in this particular movie really escalated him. Like, it was 100% it's probably the number 2 best Batman fight scene yet.
I'm gonna have to rewatch it multiple times, but yes.
So, but yes, he did a great job. There were multiple points surrounding Michael Keaton's character that our audience cheered, in-game cheered, and it was so cool to experience. But yeah, Michael Keaton killed it.
He was awesome. So I don't have anything more to say about that. Just watch it because he was dope in this. All right, you've watched it, right? But yeah, he was awesome in this. Super happy that he came back and that he was the Batman that was chosen to come back.
Right.
So yeah, let's move on to Supergirl. Sasha
Calle.
I'm sorry, I couldn't pronounce that. So Sasha, because looking at the spelling, I want to say it differently in my head. Yeah. So yeah, standout as Supergirl. Even though she did have, from the trailers, I thought going into this she would have a bigger role, but she didn't have as big a role as I thought. But for the parts that she had, kick ass.
Yes.
That was kick ass. Now again, remember, this isn't the Supergirl we're used to in our universe, right? This is a different universe. So she is not the blonde-haired Kara that we know. But her portrayal of this alternate timeline, alternate universe Supergirl, kick ass.
Yes.
Like, just even from the opening scene of when she finally sees the sun and she bulks back up because she was super in with the red kryptonite. I'm pretty sure that was red kryptonite, even though they didn't touch on it, because she was in that dome with red
sun radiation.
Not red kryptonite. I'm sorry. Yeah, red sun radiation. Sorry. They didn't say it, but I'm pretty sure that's what that was. And then when she got out and felt our sun, or the real rays from our sun, and she like bulked up and then just wiped the floor with them. That was so sick.
So the intention was to save Superman.
Yeah.
And they were raiding this facility to save Superman because this Flash knew that Superman dismantled the Justice League in the Justice League when they revived him. And he knows how powerful Superman is.
That he can take Zod.
Yes, and this is like, in case of emergency, break glass. It is not what they intended.
Yes.
They find a very frail Supergirl. And like, the other thing I thought was really cool was that, like, Supergirl in your head, you think of blonde Supergirl, like blue eyes, whatever, that we've seen portrayed in movies and in comic books.
Even in the newest Flash movie. Series. She has her own series. I forgot her name.
Yeah, Supergirl.
Melissa Benoist or something like that.
Yeah, Benoist.
Hers.
Another blonde.
She did a great job, though.
Supergirl. She did a great job.
Yeah.
So, like, to have this Supergirl come in was awesome. And she she had a tall order for her because she had been tortured by humans for 20 something years. Like she didn't care about like the politics of what had happened. So she's asked to defend humans from a Kryptonian threat when that's the way she was treated. Like that's an interesting point that she needs to make a decision, and the way she goes through that is really cool. And
I like that.
She was just fantastic. Like she did a great job, and she was just dark enough that you're not really sure what way she's gonna go.
And I was sad that she was at that nexus at that point.
She was at a nexus
where no matter what, she wasn't gonna survive in that universe. So that sucked.
I would love to see her.
Exactly.
In, like cast going forward.
That's what I meant. Is like so it's like, well, she's done in that universe, but will she come back? Who knows? Because she was awesome.
Right.
All right, well, let's move on. Let's talk about a few of the characters that we've known and seen before that were in this movie. Not a lot, but some. Like, we'll start with Ben Affleck. So we have Snyderverse Batman. Well, Flash exists in the Snyderverse. Let's call it that.
Yeah.
He exists in that universe. That's the universe. That's what Standard Barry is from. So Ben Affleck's character's in it. Gal Gadot's character's in it. They're all in it. So Ben Affleck had a nice opening scene. I thought the opening set piece was great. We'll talk about that in a second. But in that action scene, we have Ben Affleck. We have a new costume for him. We have all that, which we'll deal on. He was in it for 5 minutes, so there wasn't too much to say. He had a couple scenes with Barry as Bruce, talking to him, giving him advice.
He's his mentor.
He was cool in what I saw. I'm a big Batfleck fan, so I thought he did a great job again. It was great to see him back on the big screen as Batman. I have some interesting takes on his costume, but we'll talk about that. But overall, I thought he did a good job.
Yeah, it was entertaining to see him in the daylight on this motorcycle, like, and you actually get to see Batman as Batman. And like closing out, I don't want to spend too much time because there was a closing of the Snyder universe in this that I thought was really cool, and they did a good job bringing some people in. But you see Michael Shannon reprising his role as General Zod. I'm gonna slaughter this name, but I think it's Anche Trau as Feora El. Kiersey Clemens is Iris West, who is a new character, and she'll be in the. And then Jeremy Irons comes in as Alfred, and they all just do fantastic jobs for what it is. But you can tell that it's a closing and a send off of the Snyder universe. So
I'm still sad about that.
The next thing that I think we should talk about is the cameos, because there are some great cameos in this from the Snyderverse, and then for DC fans
as a whole,
for all time.
As a whole.
And it's interesting. Why don't you kick us off with a couple of the closeout?
So I'll kick us off with I'll do one quickly. We saw Gal Gadot real quick.
Yeah.
We saw her. That was cool. Used her lasso too. Some funny parts.
Love her music too.
Yeah, her music every
she
time.
shows up.
So she literally shows up and jumps away probably in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So
it's quick.
Quick cameo.
And it's funny too.
It is funny.
The interaction you get between Batman and Wonder Woman is really funny.
Yeah, just because he's touching the freaking lasso. But anyways, that was very cool to see. But one that we've seen before, and to me, I was like, oh, cool, see her. And that was it. You know what I mean? Now, moving on, the characters that I'm about to talk about here
this is towards the end.
Whoa.
Yeah, this is towards the end, and this is like, this was that cheer moment from our audience that everyone was
cheered.
A constant cheer, a constant clap. I don't think I heard a lot of what was said in this particular instance. It was like when Hulk slammed Loki around and nobody could hear what he said after. Like if you saw a good crowd in the theater. But yes, you get a lot of cameos that flash up real quick. I don't think they have any spoken lines at all, and they may be on there for 30 seconds.
Yeah, if that. And we saw it once. Like he said, there was cheering. There's everything. We were cheering at that point. There may be cameos in there that I missed. That we missed. So I'm excited to see it again, which we are going to go see it again tonight or tomorrow, depending when this video comes out. But so I'm excited. But one of the things we saw, let's talk about the big one to me and to you, I think, was seeing Christopher Reeves.
Dude,
again.
this gives me goosebumps just talking
Superman,
about
Christopher Reeves, and then also Helen Slater.
As Supergirl.
Supergirl. That was really cool to see. And it was
a big one that I did not expect was Nicolas
Yes.
Cage
Yes.
as Superman Lives Superman, the like abandoned story that was written by Kevin Smith, I think.
I think it was Kevin Smith, yeah.
And
he always wanted to play him.
Right,
He always wanted to play him.
and Nicolas Cage for his whole life wanted to be Superman,
Yes.
and like he named his son Kal-El,
Yeah.
and like to see him actually get to play ish Superman on screen because
I think there was
it's
some CGI, but maybe he even maybe mocapped it, and even if
Yeah.
he didn't mocap it, it might have been him with CGI over the top of him. But he is credited when we looked it up.
Yes,
he
he
is
is.
in it. His picture's in it. It says Nick Cage acted, so I think he definitely was
I
there.
hope that he got to do as much
I
as he
agree.
could in
I
that.
agree.
Because,
I hope he got to suit up.
Yeah, but man, Christopher Reeve gave me goosebumps.
Yes.
He was the like. This is who I grew up on as Superman.
Yeah.
I've got to say it. I cried whenever he broke his neck in that
time in a row.
Right. Whenever he broke his neck in that horse accident,
Yeah.
and that was one of the celebrity deaths that really affected
Yeah.
me because I was really pulling for him and the confidence that he had that he was going to walk again and everything. But to see him in this movie in his prime, like, it is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Like the CGI again, it needs to be tuned up a little bit. But even if it comes out exactly the way I saw it, I'm stupid happy with that.
Yes. I think we'll touch on that in a second, but yeah, overall, I thought the cameos were great. There's even Henry Cavill. Quickly, we see him.
A CGI
Now that one's fully
in the
CGI.
Time Bowl.
The Time Bowl.
Yeah.
We see a lot of stuff in the Time Bowl again. Stuff I could have
And
missed.
it flashes very quickly on a
Yes.
lot of levels because it radiates out like a ripple in like a water.
Let's jump into that. We talked about the cameos that we wanted to touch on. So let's jump into like the costume set pieces CGI.
Okay.
One of the cool things that I thought that they did right is the costume.
Oh,
for Flash
yes.
was amazing.
Absolutely.
I love the
100%.
costume. I love the little like yellow and into his red suit.
And it was a red, like
it
a
was a
clean
red.
suit. Like it wasn't. I like the Snyderverse
Yeah.
movies, but I felt like the costumes were way too complex.
Yeah.
Like it looked like
Except for
Flash
Batfleck.
tied his suit together with like baling wire.
Actually, no. The Trinity had good suits.
Yeah, those were good, and they spent some time. But like Cyborg, God, it looked like he was a faceted diamond. You're like, geez, why'd you spend so much money doing that? And Flash, like, it was a bit of a mess for me.
Yeah, I agree.
It wasn't unwatchable again, but it was a mess.
Yeah, it was a mess.
But
But
to
this
see
just clean.
this Flash, this is in the ring costume,
Yes.
like exactly what you get from comics,
Yes.
and it pops out, and he feels like he
Yes.
just runs into place.
There's even a
basically.
scene that was so cool
Yeah,
where
it
it
was
pops
awesome.
out and just pops out,
Yeah,
flates up,
it's awesome.
essentially.
Yeah.
And then he lands on the ground. He's like, "You're supposed to get in that
Right.
before," and he's like, "Boom!" and then just
Yeah,
gets into it
yeah,
real
it's
quick.
cool.
But I just thought that was a really cool touch. But yeah, so the costume for Flash, amazing. And then another thing I really want to touch on. Speaking of CGI, there is bad CGI in this movie. If you watched it and they didn't change anything, then you'll know what we're talking about. They have some bad CGI in this movie, but there is a lot of good CGI in the movie. And one of the things I think they used, computer generated along with real-time effects, but mostly computer generated for this, was the use of the Speed Force and showing or emphasizing the speed that he's running at. And I thought it was really cool the way he starts running. It may look a little funky, but once
No,
he gets,
actually, it looks good.
well, some
I
people
liked it.
would doesn't like
Well,
his,
he does
his
that in the
stunning.
Speed Force. So, like in the past, he did that kind of weird flailing,
Yeah.
and it looked dumb.
Yeah.
But in this movie, as he's running, he runs like you run. But as soon as he hits the Speed Force, he starts doing that again because he's swimming through the Speed Force.
Yeah.
And it's a really fluid motion that he's going through the Speed Force. But if he's not in the Speed Force, he's running. And I thought that was a really cool touch. Like he looks like a normal human running instead of that dumb little fluid thing.
The fluid thing.
But I was able to forgive it through the Speed Force because I've never run through the Speed Force.
Yeah.
I don't know what you
Yeah.
have to do. Maybe you
Who
do have to
knows?
swim through that. But as he's running around, which is one thing that I noticed right away, the running effects look fantastic.
Yes.
And the other cool thing that we should touch on while we're talking about the Speed Force is the Barry that we know here is his Speed Force is yellow, as it should be, and it is always depicted in the comics. And something I had a problem with in the Snyderverse is
blue.
It was blue. And I know that the blue is supposed to signify like newness or something like that. And that is actually the color of the Speed Force that Barry, 18-year-old Barry, that they travel back in the past, he has a blue Speed Force. Barry that we know has a yellow Speed Force. And then the dark Barry, or the dark Flash, has a purple Speed Force, which I don't know what that, like the color signifies specifically,
but
it is different and it's cool and it's dark, but it's still got some color to it. So the Speed Force looked really good in this for me.
Yeah, love the way that they showed Speed and how he flies through the city.
Yeah,
and how I love how they explain a lot of movies too. They just will. Like Quicksilver in the X-Men movies, uses super speed, but will grab someone and just run them. And even if he puts his hand behind their head, you're still running someone at supersonic
their skin's
speeds.
Flying off.
Like it's
gonna look like A-Train and The Boys. You're gonna obliterate people.
So it's not gonna be pretty. But they actually touch on that here and illustrate that you can move someone, but you have to do it. I mean, it's very small amount. In fact, most of the time you can't even really move someone or touch people, which is cool. In the baby saving scene, you notice he didn't really even touch anyone. There was minor movements where he moved them into the microwave and then moved the microwave down. So I just thought that, you even thinking that now, you're like, wait, how does that work? Well, it'll work.
It sounds fun. It sounds disgusting as he's describing it. It's actually really funny when he puts the baby in the microwave.
Yeah, but again, you've seen it, so you know what we're talking about. But yeah, so overall, I thought that was really cool. And then in the one scene where he does move Barry moves Barry, who didn't have the Speed Force, he immediately throws up. It's overwhelming to him. Yeah, it's funny. And he only moved him 10, 20 feet. Yeah. So I thought that was really cool. So, but yeah, I really liked his costume. I really liked even younger Barry's costume when he made his costume out of one of Batman's old suits. There's a scene there.
So funny.
One of my biggest issues, and we can go into Michael Keaton's suit. One of my biggest issues with all Batman suits that have ever been made are the issue of turning your head. I hate the idea that you can't turn your head. Like, what was the first Christian Bale movie? He couldn't turn his head. Michael Keaton's
every movie before Christian Bale.
The only one that got it right was Batfleck's in BVS, because the cowl maker in Justice League.
I think Dark Knight Returns, they got it right too.
Dark Knight Returns, he did say, I need something where I can turn my head. No shit, Sherlock. Like, yes.
Or no, Dark Knight, I think. The Heath Ledger one.
The Heath Ledger one, yeah. So yes, they did remedy that. But I hate not being able to turn your head. And there was a funny scene in this where he orchestrates his suit out of one of Keaton's old one, paints it red, does all that,
cuts the ears off,
and then he's sitting in his seat and he's all. There's all work on his face.
Nothing turns with him at all. Like he's looking with one eye out the wrong eye hole and everything. I
laughed my ass off. Like that was amazing. But point is if we're talking about costumes, I did like to see Michael Keaton's suit. Yes, maybe he couldn't turn his head, but I like that they took the old version. They kind of had they modernized it a little bit, and then in his action set pieces. Amazing. Yeah. Like the way he moved, everything was great. And I'm gonna rewatch it again and specifically look. Maybe in the action set pieces he turned his head.
I watched for it specifically.
So maybe they do something. I don't know. I don't know how they filmed that, but I'm gonna rewatch that. So I thought that was cool. I'm gonna touch on Ben Affleck, Batman suit, because this is from what I've looked up. You either love it or you hate it. Because I think on the hate side, and originally when I very first watched the movie, I was like, what is this monstrosity? He has shit freaking all over him, like just bunch of stuff on him. But after the movie, I was like, I don't know. So I looked up pictures before we did this, was looking at some different things, and you know what? It's grown on me. Number one, might be the only time, we'll see what James Gunn does, but might be the only time we see a blue version of Batman. We've never seen that before. I thought the blue version was really cool. I liked his cowl. I liked everything. When you really look at it, yes, he's a bit bulky, but it's growing on me. I liked it. I liked it.
I think you're forgiving of Batfleck, but
I am 100%.
It felt bulky to me. Like a lot of the armor, I didn't feel like he would have had the same like range of motion, like if he were to get in a fight or something. For that particular event that they were dealing with that day, maybe he put that on knowing that that's the way it was going to go down. But it's bulky. It's not awful. It hasn't grown on me yet. Yeah. But I am forgiving of it. I'll say.
I'm the first to say he's my favorite Batman. So yeah, it was definitely I'm definitely looking at it maybe through a little bit of rose-colored glasses here.
That's
but
okay.
overall, I enjoyed it. I liked that. I thought Supergirl's costume was amazing. It was slightly different.
Yeah, it
well,
was
not even
a
slightly.
tighter
It is different.
cape on the shoulders and came off the shoulders.
Yeah.
So it came up to her neck, down to her shoulders, and then the cape came off the shoulders, and it looked really good.
Yeah, it looked awesome.
It had enough of Man of Steel in it to make it a Kryptonian suit, but it had its own spin on it to make it like feminine and powerful.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it was really cool.
Love the take on it. Other than that, I don't think we really need to touch on too many others. Zod had the same costume as he did in Man of Steel. So talking about the set pieces real quick, that opening sequence I thought was awesome.
Yeah.
That's how you open a movie, an action movie, a superhero action movie.
Yeah.
You know, Flash's role in that was obviously a big role where he has to pretty much save everyone that just fell out of a freaking crumbling building.
Right.
It was amazing the way they shot that, I thought. Batfleck's chasing down the car, I thought that was really cool because that bat cycle was sick as hell. That bat cycle was amazing. I love the way it looks. But I thought that whole sequence was really cool. And then, you know, they end up getting the bad guy. They have a few scenes, and that's pretty much the last action scenes you see of the Snyderverse people besides Flash.
Yeah.
Thought that set piece was a great opener. Hooked me immediately. I was into it. I was like, okay, this is what it's going to be like.
Right.
Dope. And I got to talk about, if we're talking about like the set piece, I got to talk about like the setups and the humor. Because before that, he's trying to get food. He's low on calories.
Yeah.
That whole sequence was funny.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, that's funny. You know, that's pretty good. I wonder where the humor is going to go from here. You know what? They didn't disappoint me.
They delivered. In
They
fact,
delivered on the humor.
There was a scene in that I think I couldn't really get myself composed for nearly a minute because Barry's lost his power but doesn't know he's lost his power yet. And he attempts to run around to show that he has his power. And he does that weird kind of swimming motion as he's running, and he's just running like at normal speed or even a little slow around this lobby. And like you hear the squeaking of his shoes on the tile, and it's ridiculous.
And
like the way he's like exhausted after a couple seconds and everything.
And then he stops, he's like, shit. Dude, it was just
the cussing and everything was well timed too.
Yeah,
like
it was great.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Great. And then, like I mentioned earlier, the scene where he's got that thing, he turns his head and just looks. It was hilarious.
Well, and then like younger Barry, like his enthusiasm around everything, jumping on the bed. Like you meet some of his friends at some point, and like one of them is so damn awkward.
Yes,
like he's
so
got
dumb.
like spread eagle in his underwear, and like they have these conversations about. And then he's a genius though.
Yeah.
Like he like puts these things in, and then they have these conversations that are just confusing and weird but funny. Like it was.
The comedic timing was on
it was
point.
really, really
the jokes,
good.
I would say 90% landed, which is a huge success rate. Because there are a lot of movies, even comic movies, even Marvel movies, where like I will end the movie and I'm like, 50-50. 50 of the jokes landed, 50%
Quantumania,
didn't.
I love Paul Rudd.
I love Paul Rudd too,
and I was really looking forward to that. And Paul Rudd's timing is fantastic. But man, Quantumania was on the struggle bus, I think, a little bit comedically.
I think the writing suffered a little bit.
Yeah,
the writing
and like, I'm going to say it, I didn't like Bill Murray in this.
Or
in Quantumania.
It's because...
I think he kind of killed the comedy.
Not to go off on a complete tangent, but like, I almost felt in that, they're like, hey, it's Bill Murray on screen.
Right.
You need to love it because it's Bill Murray. No matter what he does or what he says, you would love it.
They didn't have that moment in this, which was awesome. So I just liked it. Nothing was forced.
Nope.
It felt organic and funny, and it was just a nice, easy-going thing. But it wasn't all that. Like the dramatic, like the heavy parts were heavy. Like you felt it.
Barry
you felt
and his
it. You're
parents,
losing
his mother.
Yeah, you're losing a parent. You're losing two parents actually, for different reasons. But and then like you have the younger Barry who is doing everything he can to protect his mother in this, where the older Barry knows that he's it has to be fixed.
Yeah.
And there's a big theme in there that it's like not everything can be fixed.
Yeah.
And the mother says that, and like, God, it gives me goosebumps again. That like when he comes to that realization, you're like, oh shoot, like
when you realize that one point was a nexus, and that you can't come back from it. This is how it's gonna be. And it's like just like you said, sometimes you have to accept that.
Yeah.
And that was rough.
Yeah.
And the scene too, I thought was really cool. And I just, it got me to do the whole like thing was a scene where he realizes that he has to put the can of tomatoes or whatever back on the shelf, take it out of her cart and put it back on the shelf after younger Barry, or his younger self technically, or his
few hours younger self
put in the cart.
Yeah.
He has to take it out of the cart.
Yeah.
Now, I just thought that was cool when he enters the Speed Force and she has her hand up and he starts to cry and he realizes
God, that whole scene was
just
rough.
realizes he has to do it. Now, I will say this, the cool twist is the whole thing that was setting his father up as the proof they needed that he was not at the house when she died was he went to the store, but he never looked up at the security camera because the can of soup that he had was on the low level. There's a camera here, and he reached down, had a hat on, and walked and did his business. I thought it was so cool that when Barry takes it and goes to put it back, and he goes, and it kind of looks up and was like, and then it cut.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, is he going to switch? Is he going to switch him? And he does. And then in the video where they needed the proof, his dad looks up and grabs the can, and the camera sees his face. I just thought that was so cool.
And something to point out is they talked about like, well, why didn't that get him off like initially? Why do you have to go to jail?
Because it was
the thing is that it was corrupted.
Yes.
The video was corrupted, and Bruce Wayne was able to clean up the video. And so whenever they saw the cleaned up version that was altered because of moving to the past, moving that can up, then it was clear enough to see his face. But that was really good. I thought that was amazing.
I agree. Well, let's wrap this up. But there's a few things I wanted to mention. Number one, we didn't talk about him. I'm going to butcher his name, but the director I thought did a fantastic job. Andy Muschietti. I thought he did a great job, and it's now known. I believe I just looked. I think either earlier this morning or yesterday, it was announced that he will be the director for James Gunn's Batman: The Brave and the Bold, the brand new Batman in James Gunn's new universe. I don't see a better man to do it. I thought he killed it on this movie. So you proved to me you can do a superhero movie. So I'm excited to see what he brings.
And James Gunn has also said that he wants his Batman to be a little older.
Yeah.
Where he wants Superman to be younger, early mid-20s or something like that, mid-20s I think. He wants his Batman to be a little older, in like late 30s or 40s.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see what he takes, what he does with it. So I'm really, I'm excited. So overall, to wrap this up, to me, this has been one of my favorite comic book movies that I've seen in a long time, probably since Endgame.
Yeah.
Endgame was just, you don't beat Endgame in Infinity War. It was amazing.
It was the story, the audience that we saw it with,
that definitely
helped. The humor, and like the effects were good enough to keep you in the movie. They didn't pull you out, but there were definitely some moments you're like, I wish that looked a little better, but not. It doesn't pull you out of the movie.
Not enough to pull you out completely.
And the cameos just like it blew up.
Yeah.
Like it made me so happy to see that.
And I've definitely seen a mixture of reviews. I've seen reviews that love this movie. I've seen reviews that say it's mid. I've seen reviews that said they hate it and that it just rides nostalgic coattails and that's it. Look,
I don't think you can go wrong with nostalgia.
Well, everyone's gonna have their own opinions, and for me and for you, Stinky, the overall, the way this movie shaped up and turned out, I thoroughly enjoyed. Now, I will say also a lot of Marvel movies I've gone in and had really high expectations, and then they kind of slightly underperform, and so I'm like, it wasn't as good. The cool part about this movie is I went in with almost no expectation. I was like, I hope it's good.
Well, DC's just blown up everything.
Right, and I'm like, I hope it's good. I hope at least I leave the theater like I did with Black Adam. Is Black Adam the best movie ever? No, but I left the theater and I was like, hey, that was a fun time.
Yeah.
That was a fun time. I saw some cool action. It was fun.
Yeah.
So that's what I wanted with this, but it took it a step above. Thoroughly enjoyed that. So I'm just super happy. Let's say overall, I want to mention one other thing real quick. The pre-screening version that we saw did not have an end credit scene. It did not even have from what we've heard is it did not even have a scene past the point.
End.
Yeah, past the point where Barry is talking to Bruce after he gets back, after the whole movie's over with, and you see Bruce's foot come out of a car.
Yeah.
You see his shoe come out of the car, and then Barry goes, "Who the F is that?"
Yeah.
Or something to that effect. That's where our cut.
Yeah,
now, from what I've heard,
lights came up. And that was it.
So from what I've heard, you actually do get to see the Bruce.
And he's an older
shoe
actor.
Yes, and so from what we're guessing, from what I've read, I've heard it's George Clooney.
Yes.
I'm not happy with that. He's my least favorite Batman by a mile.
Unless that's who they're planning to run with in Brave and the Bold. Like, he has the look, but I don't know.
His acting, dude, Batman and Robin was terrible. His acting was terrible.
We barely could watch
the
it
suit
when
was
we
terrible.
went back and
It was
reviewed
terrible. I watched it when I was younger, like little kid, and when I watched it this time around, I was like, well, it's gonna be terrible, but you know, whatever. As an adult, we could barely finish that movie. It was garbage. Anyways,
maybe they learn from their mistakes.
Point is, we'll see what happens, but that's what I've heard. We're gonna go see it. We haven't seen it officially yet, so we're gonna see that. Apparently, there's an end credit scene too that I don't know what goes on, but we haven't seen that yet. So if you have, let us know in the comments below what actually happens, what you liked, disliked about this movie. But before we go to our outro here, rating, what do you give it?
I'd give it a 9 out of 10.
That's where I was going with it too. So I agree. I think this movie's a 9 out of 10. I think this movie is one of the best comic book movies in a while. So I'm very happy. If for whatever reason you decided to watch this and you haven't seen it, for whatever reason, again, this was spoilers, go watch it. You now hear about it. Just go watch it. It's fun.
You're still going to love the experience.
Yes, I agree. So yeah, that was a lot of fun.
So that was fun. I'm looking forward to seeing the theatrical cut.
Yeah, I want to see it.
Next week, I think we're going to go over some Star Wars What If.
Yes.
I had a discussion at work. One of my friends, Jacob, suggested that we talk about something like, what if Ahsoka had never left the Order? Would Anakin have turned to the dark side?
Yes.
So we've got a couple of what if questions that we're going to go over and debate next week.
Yes.
And
Yeah, I think that'll be a lot of fun. Maybe actually have a little bit more of a debate. This was a nice review where we agreed wholeheartedly on the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, this might be a little more of a debate. I'm looking forward to it. We haven't done too much Star Wars on the channel, so this will be a big Star Wars one. So tune in next week. So we appreciate to everyone that did tune in this week and watched this episode. And again, if you like what you saw, please do consider hitting that like and subscribe button. That very much helps the channel. We are almost at 600 subscribers. We are pushing for 1,000, and we're gonna have a special giveaway when we hit that 1,000 subscriber. And I won't go into it yet, but just know that there's gonna be a pretty awesome giveaway when we hit 1,000 subscribers. So again, please do that. That really helps our channel grow. And as we tune out right now, as we fade out into the darkness and get ready to go watch this movie again, I just want to say, yes, in the Speed Force, I just want to say to everyone, ladies and gents, make sure and stay geeky.